They thought they had the numbers. They thought they had the process. They thought they had the time. Then a mechanical engineer from Harare walked into the High Court and filed papers that could stop the most powerful political agenda in Zimbabwe dead in its tracks. His name is Ynason Matete, and what he has just done might be the most consequential legal move in Zimbabwe's recent democratic history. For weeks, Zimbabwe has been watching CAB3 move through the political system like a freight train with no brakes. 300,000 public submissions, analysts defending it on television, disciplinary hearings expelling those who oppose it. Even the president's own nephew thrown out of the party for refusing to align. But while ZANU-PF was focused on parliament, the courts were being loaded. And now the judiciary is being asked the question that could end this entire agenda. Does Zimbabwe's constitution mean what it says? Ynason Matete is not a career politician. He is not an opposition leader with a party structure behind him. He is not a senior lawyer from an established firm with decades of constitutional litigation on his resume. He is a mechanical engineer, a former Class 1 fitter who became a full-time vendor because Zimbabwe's industrial sector collapsed beneath his feet. A Mandela Washington Fellow, a civic activist who founded Project Vote 263 to get young Zimbabweans registered to vote, a man who, by every conventional measure of who challenges powerful governments in court, should not be the one doing this. And yet here he is. On the 20th of May 2026, Matete walked into the High Court and filed an application that legal analysts are now describing as powerful, precisely crafted, and strategically devastating. His target is CAB3, specifically clauses 4, 9, and 10. The provisions that extend presidential and parliamentary terms from 5 to 7 years, abolish direct presidential elections, and transfer voter registration from the Independent Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to the Registrar General, a government-controlled office. His argument is not political. He is not asking the court to decide whether CAB3 is good or bad for Zimbabwe. He is not asking judges to weigh in on the succession war or the 2030 agenda or the internal battles of ZANU-PF. He is asking one narrow, precise, legally explosive question. Do these clauses fall under Section 328 of Zimbabwe's constitution? And if they do, can they be passed without a national referendum? Section 328 is a constitutional safeguard. It protects term limit provisions that define how long a person can hold public office by requiring that any amendment to them goes directly to the Zimbabwean people for approval, not to parliament, not to a disciplinary committee, not to a party structure enforcing loyalty through expulsion to the people through a referendum. And here is the detail that should make every supporter of CAB3 deeply uncomfortable. ZANU-PF has never won a referendum, not once, and with the party itself visibly divided, with Vice President Chiwenga's faction actively working against CAB3 from inside the corridors of power, with the Catholic bishops, the Zimbabwe Council of Churches, and the Law Society of Zimbabwe all publicly raising concerns. The chances of ZANU-PF winning a referendum on CAB3 are, in the assessment of analysts following this case closely, next to zero, which is precisely why the government has been insisting a referendum is not required. Matete is now asking the High Court to tell Zimbabwe whether that insistence is constitutional, and his legal architecture is formidable. He filed under sections 85, 171, and 175 of the Constitution, described by legal analysts as the widest possible doorway for constitutional challenge. He cited every relevant state actor parliament, the president, Justice Minister Ziambi, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and the Attorney General. No institutional actor involved in passing, enacting, or implementing Cab3 has been left outside the reach of his application. The relief he is seeking is comprehensive and enforceable. He wants a declaratory order confirming that the relevant clauses require a referendum. He wants a declaration that enacting those clauses without a referendum would be unconstitutional and void. He wants an interdict, a legal block preventing Parliament, the President, and the Minister of Justice from taking any further steps toward enactment without a referendum. And he wants the ZEC directed to prepare and conduct that referendum. This is not a symbolic gesture. This is a legal siege, carefully constructed, precisely aimed. Filed on the same day the Constitutional Court was hearing oral arguments in a separate but related case, the Maduku application, which challenges the President's conduct in presiding over cabinet approval of an amendment from which he personally benefits. Two applications, two courts, two different legal angles, attacking the same structure simultaneously. Now, here is the dimension of this story that changes everything. Matete's legal challenge is public, visible, fighting from outside the government structures. But the document at the center of this story reveals something that Zimbabwe has not been saying loudly enough. Chiwenga's faction is not just uncomfortable with CAB3. They are actively working against it, indirectly, quietly, but deliberately, which means Matete and the legal challengers fighting Cab3 in open court are being indirectly supported by the Vice President of Zimbabwe and his political network, operating from inside the very institution pushing the bill. Think about what that means. The man challenging Cab3 in the High Court is being quietly backed, not officially, not publicly, but strategically by the second most powerful figure in Zimbabwe's government. Chiwenga called certain people toxic. He said Zimbabwe must never allow toxic people to lead this peaceful country. He did not specify who he meant. But the political analysts reading his statement alongside his faction's opposition to CAB3 are drawing lines that connect very clearly. The battle against CAB3 is not just a civil society battle. It is not just a legal battle. It is a battle being fought on multiple fronts simultaneously. In the High Court by Matete, in the Constitutional Court by Maduku, in the corridors of ZANU-PF by Chiwenga's faction, in churches by the bishops, in legal chambers by the Law Society, the 2030 agenda is surrounded from outside and from within. Legal scholars across Southern Africa are watching the Matete application with intense interest, because the constitutional question at its heart is not unique to Zimbabwe. Across Africa, governments have repeatedly used constitutional amendments to extend presidential terms. Some succeeded, some were blocked, and the mechanism that blocked the most dangerous ones was almost always the same thing: a constitutional safeguard that the amending government underestimated. A provision they dismissed as procedural. A clause they assumed they could bypass through parliamentary majorities and political pressure. Section 328 of Zimbabwe's constitution is that provision, and Matete is asking the court to confirm that it means exactly what it says. Inside Zimbabwe, the reaction to his filing has been electric. Civil society organizations are rallying behind the case. Young Zimbabweans who have watched CAB3 develop with growing alarm are seeing in Matete's application something they've been desperately looking for in this entire saga: a legal path, a constitutional mechanism, a way to stop this that does not require violence, that does not require revolution. That simply requires the courts to read the Constitution and apply it honestly. That is all Matete is asking for. And that is everything. For ZANU-PF's legal team, the challenge is now formidable. They must fight the Maduku application in the Constitutional Court while simultaneously responding to the Matete application in the High Court. Two different legal standards, two different timelines, two different arguments to construct and defend. Every day this litigation continues is a day CAB3 does not pass. Every delay injects more uncertainty into the parliamentary process. Every court date gives Zimbabweans and the international community more time to examine what exactly is being proposed and what it would mean for democracy. Time is Mnangagwa's enemy right now, and Matete just stole a significant amount of it. I